Hi, everybody that's filing in. We're going to just give everybody a couple of minutes or a minute to join, and then we'll get started. So exciting seeing so many people here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started if everybody's ready. Dr. Becky, you ready?
I am ready, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to flip to the first slide here. I am Jessica Pallay. I am the brand editorial director at Vivvi, and I am so excited to welcome you guys here today. I am thrilled to get started on this conversation, which is going to be so valuable with a really valuable guest, Dr. Becky. As I said, I'm Jessica. I'm a mom of two, and I also work here at Vivvi. And Vivvi is on a mission to reinvent childcare and early learning for today's family, and we're doing that in a few different ways. In New York, we have 3 campuses that specialize in learning and care for children that are 6 weeks old to 5 years. And then nationally, our in-home programs take our teachers and everything about our school model and place it right inside your home, which expands our coverage to meet families where they are. The reason that we're here today talking about the power of play is because play is so critical to what we do here at Vivvi and the Vivvi learning model. Our curriculum is inspired by children's curiosity and interests. Vivvi uses a student-led approach that helps children reach their developmental milestones, and play is such an important part of that. We often refer to play here as children's work because it's through play that they learn about themselves and the world around them. Before I get started, I just wanted to share a few logistics with you, and then we'll dive in. So first, I wanted to say that I appreciate seeing so many faces here. This is incredible. I love seeing all of you, and I know that Dr. Becky loves seeing your faces. So if you can stay on the screen, stay on. If you can't, we get that your parents, totally fine. Go off screen, come back on. We know that it's hectic. So we have a cool 45 minutes together. I'm going to use the first 30 minutes asking Dr. Becky a couple of questions. And basically they're all from you guys because we base them on the submissions from you. And then I'm going to head over to the chat function and we're going to take some questions from the audience. So I really would love for you to think about, since our topic is the power of play, think about tricky playtime situations that you've been dealing with in your home, which I'm sure there are many, especially in the past 2 years. And then we're going to hop into some of those questions and model the situations for Dr. Becky and let her actually tackle them here in person. So as you know, playtime's a huge topic. If you're a parent, you know that, and we are definitely not going to get to everything today, but I promise that you will walk away with at least one practical, applicable tool that will help you feel more confident and feel better prepared to take on play with your child. Honestly, as a parent that does not really like to play, I will be honest about that. I think it's a major parenting win to just walk away with one thing. So in case you need more of Dr. Becky after this is over, and trust me, you will, you can head over to vivvi.com/events and check out another great webinar that we did with Dr. Becky a while back, or some other great programming topics like potty training, sleep, relationships, and more. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to introduce Dr. Becky. So I'm so excited to be here with Dr. Becky today. At Vivvi, we strive to support our families through all the ups and downs and twists and turns of parenthood. And so does Dr. Rebecca Kennedy, AKA Dr. Becky. For most of us today, she probably needs no introduction, but I want to share a few tidbits just in case. So Dr. Becky is a clinical psychologist and a mom of 3, and she's truly rethinking the way that we raise our children. She specializes in thinking deeply about what's happening for children and translating these ideas into simple, actionable strategies for parents. As an expert in parenting and child development, she equips parents with the tools to strengthen the parent-child relationship, decrease problem behaviors, and build more peaceful homes, which I think we could all use. I'm personally obsessed with her Good Inside podcast, and I know that I am not alone. She was named the Millennial Parenting Whisperer by Time Magazine, and pretty much every parent that I know listens to her, follows her on Instagram, reads her newsletters, and downloads her parenting workshops. She is also developing a Netflix for parenting platform. By the way, you guys are some of the first to find out about that, where parents can watch workshops and chat about techniques with like-minded parents. So today we're going to talk to Dr. Becky about how play can benefit your child, how and why you should introduce it in your home, and how and why you should introduce it, even if you don't enjoy playing. So Dr. Becky, I want to start off a little bit generally. Let's talk about play. So here at Vivvi, we talk a lot about learning through play, but that can be kind of confusing. So can you explain, what does that actually mean? Can you talk about how a child can learn through play, even from their baby days, the building blocks of play, and some of the benefits of play?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm so honored to be here. I love connecting with anyone and everyone on the Vivvi team. And I also want to have a kind of disclaimer up front that I think most of you know. If not, I have 3 kids myself. They're 4, 7, and 10. And like, I just do not want any of you to think that I go around with my kids doing all the things I'm going to tell you to do. So I also will take one thing, remind myself to like actually utilize it with my own kids. So talking about these things is easier than implementing it. So we can all hold ourselves to the same standard of imperfection. Okay, so play and learning through play, and what does that really mean? I think we can break it down in a couple different ways. So first of all, we learn through experience. That might sound like a throwaway comment, but it's really not. That we don't learn by lecture or by someone telling us something. We learn through experiencing something in our own body. And so let's extend that to play. And I see, like, actually lovely on the video, I see Diana, and your child has like all of these toys in front of her, or, and this is like a great example to even jump into. So if we think about what really the foundation for learning is it's the skills that generalize to every learning situation, right? Learning multiplication doesn't really generalize to writing an essay, right? But what's inherent in both is frustration tolerance, is idea generation, is trying something, is having something not go your way, and being able to ground yourself and try again. That these skills that I feel like used to be called like soft skills are actually like the hard skills of learning. So if we start with play, and we even have a baby who's reaching for something, or maybe with that stacker I see is trying to stack things, right, and get them all on, which would require going in a certain order. Here's what happens in play. A child thinks, I want to do something. I need to activate my body to try that. That didn't work. I'm really upset that that didn't work. I may be melting down that that didn't work. Of course, the kid isn't saying this. They're probably just crying. Hopefully they learn not to solve it right away, but actually to do some version of taking a deep breath, saying something nice to themselves, regulating their body, thinking about what didn't work, thinking about the outcome they want, trying something new, and going on, right, until they find an outcome they're happy with. This is learning. This is the stuff that's going to help your kid learn how to read, learn how to do math, take on, something new on the soccer field. It's the ability to regulate all the feelings involved in learning. And I think we all know, if we look at Diana's baby right here, like if that was me and my kid, or Diana and her child, like you can't say, well, do the green one, then the yellow one, then the orange one, then the red one. First of all, child's not going to actually be able to replicate that. But now I've made it certain that my child cannot generalize the skills to anything else. Unless my child's trying to generalize, when I have something hard, I look around for an adult who can tell me exactly what to do. Where I don't know any parent who thinks that's actually what I want my kid to do when they're 5 and 8 and 38, right? So in play, kids practice being frustrated. They practice not having the outcome that they want. And then they practice regulating and trying again. And there's no way around that. There's no way to build the skills for learning if you don't experience the frustration in play. And so play becomes really this amazing medium to learn all the important life skills.
I mean, that's like, it's you make it so simple, and yet it's really heavy. That's a big deal. I mean, there's, no wonder that there's such an emphasis on it. You used a few of the words in there like frustrating. And I know that I've been playing with my kids and seeing them, frustrated sometimes is a turnoff to me. It's one of the reasons I don't love to play. So I'd love to jump into that now specifically for parents out there, and feel free, show of hands, who doesn't like to play? I'd love to see anyone. Can everybody be honest about that? And also,
Sure.
by the way, if you love to play, that's awesome. There is nothing wrong with either one. But for parents like us that don't love to play, why? Why don't we love to play? Does that mean that there is something wrong with us? And how can we kind of get started for those of us non-play enjoyers? Can you give us a little script to just like dig in?
Yeah, so I think there could be a number of reasons why, as parents, we don't like to play, but I'll give a couple that come to mind, and then maybe we can problem solve through all of them. So, number one, play is not linear. Play is inherently not linear, right? Play doesn't really have any desired outcome. Play doesn't have anything that indicates a success. Play is really the practice of being present. And like I, for one, can be like, that's hard because I'm always trying to accomplish something or do something, or there's always a list going on. And if I'm just saying, okay, I guess I'm doing Play-Doh with my 4-year-old, it feels like unproductive. It feels frustrating to an adult for that reason, right? So I think that's one reason. Number two, to the degree we didn't have adults in our lives who played with us, who really embraced fun and kind of that presence in a kid-focused world, then it feels really awkward to do it with our kids, right? In some ways, if adults didn't do that with us, we learned as kids to undervalue it. We learned it was like a solitary experience. So it's actually a really cycle-breaking moment to play with your kids. And then you have to face all of the feelings and barriers involved in being a cycle breaker. Number three, play with kids often isn't just fun. It often is full of frustration because no matter what a kid is playing, it's pretend play and you're not doing the thing they want you to do. It's blocks and the thing falls over. They're drawing and it doesn't look the way they want it to look. They're playing with a sibling and you, and then all the sibling dynamics are involved, right? So if play is kind of a child's world, then play isn't just play. It involves all the really difficult moments of kind of a child's life. So let's go through all those things. And I'm sure there's more too, but those are the first three that come to mind. So number one, the non-linearity of it, right? So this is something I think about a lot, is that in the world that we live in with technology, with kind of the endless scroll, there's always the lure of accomplishing more. Maybe it literally is an email you have to write, or it's an email from, work that you have to get to, or a project, or it's just the more of, there's another article I could read on this website. There's another thing I could scroll to, right? And it's one of the reasons that playing with your kids is almost antithetical to even having your phone in the room. It really isn't, because that's the lure of more and more, and it's never enough. And play is kind of the embodiment of me doing one singular thing with my kid is enough. Like they're really hard to hold at once. So I actually find playing with my kids a lot easier if I can have my phone behind 2 layers. And I mean like behind my bedroom, behind my bathroom door. Like I know myself, I need 2 layers to like have any hope of this going well. And then I tell myself when I play with my kids, because I think it speaks to a really deep message my body needs to hear. It's like, me right now playing Play-Doh is enough. This is enough. It's the opposite of the lure of productivity. This is enough. Or sometimes I get even more hyperbolic because I think I need to hear it. It's like, Becky, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now. You're supposed to be sitting on your floor, kind of like playing with your baby and smiling. This is exactly what I need to be doing. Okay, let's get to that second thing, that like, well, what if we didn't really have adults who played with us, and how might that kind of filter into our parenting? That's a real like loss in our life. That really was something we had to adapt to. It's something we learned from. And often something that can really help there is thinking about the way you can re-embrace play in your own life. If playing with your kid is hard, probably playing in your own adult world is hard. Do I give myself time to do a hobby here and there that has like no productive value? Do I know what brings me fun? Can I before I gear up, my kid's coming home from school soon. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look in front of the mirror. I'm going to play a song from when I was a teenager, and I'm just going to dance and sing around my house. Because if I really develop my play levity muscle for myself and the way I relate to myself, it's going to be a lot easier to give that out to your kid, right? I always say this, and it's really like core to my reparenting workshop and everything I do there, which I think is like the basis of what every parent needs to do before they think about changing their parenting approach, is we can't give our kids what we're not giving ourselves. You just can't. Like, the math doesn't work. So that's really important. Number 3, the frustration in play. So this might sound like kind of like odd, or even like, Becky, that's like perverse, okay? But when my kids get frustrated when they're playing, I literally say to myself, I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Like, this is my bang for my buck parenting moment. Like, this is when I can wire something that's not only going to help maybe in the moment, but is going to help like when my kids are out of the house. And I think turning kind of the tables a little bit on those frustrating moments. Oh, I only have 5 minutes, and here my kid is melting down that their block tower isn't like going the way they want. This is like such a waste of my time, right? Then we're so frustrated to say, wait, like everything good about parenting, at least today, is going to happen right now. Because it's great when we have great moments. Those are enjoyable. But I mean this, they actually don't have the same long-term impact on our kids that we could have if we wire a little bit of calm and resilience next to a frustrated moment. And so when you really flip the script on yourself and say, this is what I was set up to do, like this is the best way I could spend these couple minutes with my kids, you'll watch yourself be a little more present. And I'm sure today we'll get into other things we can do when our kids have those meltdowns, but none of those strategies will come to you if you're in, I can't believe I have to deal with this mindset, right? The mindset we're in dictates the strategies we have access to. So you can learn every strategy in the world and memorize it, but if you're not noticing the mindset you're in, that bucket of strategies is literally offline when we're frustrated.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. So give me the, if you have the 5 minutes,
Great.
how do you dig in? If, I am somebody who is not that interested in playing, I know I only have 5 minutes. How can I get started and keep it to 5 minutes and get something out of it? Like, give us the script.
So let's start by just naming that to your kids. And I think the no phone thing matters so much, right? So I might say like something like this. Hey, let's play for a couple minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my phone in the other room, because I know if there's a screen anywhere around us, it'll get in our way around playing, right? Just naming that, go to do it. And then I would say, I have 5 minutes. I know at the end of those 5 minutes, we're both going to wish there was more time. We'll have more time another day to play. For now, I have 5 minutes. So, let's get our body ready for that amount of time, right? This is something I always call emotional vaccination, right? When we let our kids know about a feeling that might happen or a situation that's coming, they can deal with it better, right? Because feelings are hard enough to deal with that if you add being surprised by a feeling, it's game over for anybody. So if you remove the surprise element and you almost pre-infuse, right, like understanding and validation, I always feel like you've like pre-regulated a feeling. Like, again, talk about bang for your buck. Like, I've regulated it by adding those elements before it even comes. Then what? I always think about this phrase, like, how can I just join my kids' world? That's my goal. Join their world, because them just knowing that I'm interested in their world, like, that's play. That's enough. There's no right way to play. It's not like we're trying to accomplish anything. Again, play is the opposite of anything outcome oriented, right? So what would that look like? Maybe I'd sit and let's say I have a baby who's, playing with like squishy blocks. Let's play. What would I say? Mommy's here. You have a red and a green block, right? Super simple. When you really want to join a kid's world, you want to be present, describe. You can mimicking to young kids. So they're kind of playing with like a little block and you kind of take and you just do it next to them. That's it. It really is less is more. It really, really is, right? Less is more. Now let's talk about slightly older kids. They want to build, they want to build something. They're using mag tiles, they're using blocks, they're playing with baby dolls. Join my child's world. Wait, your child will probably tell you what they want you to do, especially when a 3-year-old has your full attention, right? Oh, put this over here, put this over here. Listen, You're the mommy, I'm the, the baby, whatever the role is, and then join the child's world further. You could play that part. You can, again, build what they're building. You can describe what they're doing. You're building a really tall tower. Oh, you're using all the magnetiles. You're using magnetiles and blocks. You're figuring out how to use a string and weave it into the paper. When we describe what a kid's doing, what we're really saying to them is, your world matters to me. And therefore, like, you matter. And if you matter, that means you're important. It's so self-esteem building. And then I think the other part that I would really be on alert for is just notice the distraction thoughts. They're not bad. They don't make you a bad parent. Just say hi to them. Oh, I thought about that email I have to do. I thought about the groceries I want to order. Me playing with my 2-year-old is enough. I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing to kind of come back and get grounded.
I love that. Thank you. I want to talk for a minute, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, but about learning emotional regulation skills through play.
Yep.
I think that's on a lot of parents' minds, especially, thinking about how they can learn that sort of social emotional piece of it. So one of our attendees asked this question. I'm going to read it to you, and maybe you can kind of model the scenario. So I'd love to hear, this is what the question is. I'd love to hear more about working through challenging scenarios through play. For instance, we try to play practice either between us or with toys, modeling asking someone for space instead of pushing. Can you get that more? Sorry. Can you get into that more and share a little bit how parents can teach about coping skills, frustration, and tolerance?
Great. So let's start with like an overview and framework, right, of like how kids learn these skills and right where we kind of do and don't have opportunities to teach them. I like to think about emotion regulation kind of along a metaphor of like a fire in a house, right? Let's start with the times that our kids are not regulated. Our kid just pushed a friend, like in this example, or our kid has a massive meltdown every time, I don't know, you tell them no, or every time they kind of have to share with another kid with the toys, something like that. In those moments, it's really important to think about, like, this is an emotional fire that's happening. We don't have a fire extinguisher. Okay, that's not at our disposal. We can't turn it out, and we wouldn't want to use it even if we had it, right? Emotions are part of us. And extinguishing a part of us is a form of self-hatred and self-loathing. Like, we want to teach our kids that all the feelings in the world can be a part of them, right? And so we don't do that by killing them off. So there's no extinguisher. Our goal is to contain. But if you actually had a fire in your house, the only goal would be to contain the fire. Separate from that is what I call fireproofing your home. If you actually had a fire in your house, when the fire was done burning, hopefully you'd think, what led to the fire? What would need to change in my house? I obviously need to make a change, or else my home is as vulnerable to a fire as it was the first place. I'll get mad when the fire happens again, but it's on me to fireproof it. We don't fireproof a home during a fire. If your home was actually on fire and you were going around trying to fireproof it, people would be like, what are you doing? Not the time. Contain only. But if you only contained and didn't go back to fireproof, also, that's just not an effective strategy. We need 2 totally different buckets of skills and strategies as a parent. Skills to contain, strategies to contain. That's over. Often at night, we're like, oh, I wonder what was going on. I wonder what led to that. I wonder what skills my child would need to have a lower vulnerability to that moment. And that's what we can do when our kids are calm. And that's what we can do in play. That is exactly what we do in play. So my kid tends to push whenever they are frustrated, right? So let's come up with first an understanding of like what that would look like. There's frustration as a feeling. There's the urge to push, and then there's pushing. 2 out of those 3 things are completely okay. I'm not gonna, I think we can, I'll give you the answer. Frustration is okay, and having an urge to push is okay. Pushing is not okay. We can't kill our feelings, and we can't kill our urges. We can't. They happen before our behavior. They happen before our thoughts. And having an urge is just not within our control. We can develop skills for feelings, and we can develop skills for urges. But this is really important. We can't learn to regulate feelings or urges that we don't allow ourselves to have. And kids can't learn to regulate feelings or urges that parents don't basically explicitly give them permission to have. Your kid has to know it's okay to want to push, to stop pushing. I know that's odd, but they have to, or else they identify as a bad kid. And then all of their energy is, oh, I shouldn't even want to do that. I'm not supposed to, I'm a bad kid. Guess what? That comes up, the shame of badness. It has to come out. It has to come out because they're not supposed to feel that way inside. So guess what happens to an urge that you can't have? It has to explode out of you, right? So how would I put this into play? I might say this to my child. Oh, your friend's coming over later today. Oh, so tricky to share with friends who come over, right? Me too, even as an adult, that's really hard. One of the things that's a core principle to everything, and really what's now become a whole good inside like mindset and approach, is de-shame, 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 de-shame. How? Always through our stories, through basically saying, I've done what you've done. I still sometimes want to do the things you've done. It's the total reversal of you're a bad kid, go to your room, right? And that's not, there's so much, that's not like gentle parenting. It's like, this is like so gentle. It's not gentle. It's just effective parenting. That's what I want to call it. It's just effective parenting. I'm all for effective parenting. So after that, I might say this, let's go into the actually, whatever, let's go into your room. And I want to actually pretend that I'm Jasper, who's coming over later. And I'm going to take your favorite, whatever, I'm going to take your favorite trucks. Let's see what happens. Then if it was my kid, I'd actually say this. Ooh, I think I would feel frustrated if Jasper took my favorite, you too. Here's a tricky question. Do you think it's okay to like have energy in your hands when you're frustrated and like want to do something with it? Your kid will probably say this. No, I know. This is like an amazing reversal. No, it's okay. That's okay. I won't let you push because that's dangerous for you and Jasper. But actually, if we know that you want to, that's going to help us. And then I'd actually act this out and play. So I happen to have a colored push pin that my daughter was coloring this morning. I'm going to pretend this is like the truck, right? So I'd say something like this. Okay, so here's me. I have my truck. I might even say, oh, I have your favorite truck, right? Like in my family, I actually do mimic a lot of the situations that are hard. This gives us, again, that bang for your buck moment. Now we can get into the circuit and interrupt it. We can have feeling, urge, and then you know what stops an urge from converting into behavior? One thing. Space and time. That's it. Nothing that fancy. Space and time, right? That's what allows us to get grounded and almost make an active decision. So I might say this. Ooh, sometimes your hands want to push, push, push. Let's do this instead. I'm going to model this. I'm actually going to get up, even though I don't have a lot of space behind me. One of the best things for kids who are kind of can hit or push, if you think about it, they have an urge and they move toward. It's actually like very spatial. They move toward the other kid. You know what an antidote to that is? Moving away. Ooh, I want that truck. Let's practice this. I've done this with all three of my kids in Air Young Guard. Let's practice this. As soon as your kid learns to back away and put their hands on their own body, guess what? They don't push. They don't push because they've inserted time and space. No kid ever says, you know what I'm going to do? Smack Jasper in the arm. That's what I'm going to do. That's a great decision. That's never happened because kids are good kids. They have an urge that overtakes their body. And again, the skill is the regulation of moving away. So I might actually practice that with my kid and I'd make a big deal. High five. Wow, you really moved away. What would happen if I had more space? I'd be like, let's go here. Maybe I'd make a game out of it. Oh, I'm going to move so far away. I'd move into the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom now. Wow, that's really far away, right? Or I could teach something else. Sometimes I have so much energy in my hands. I'm just going to hit the floor. Let's hit the floor. Mad energy in the hands, hit the floor. Now, let's fast forward to later that day, Jasper's coming over. This is a really important thing around kids being able to change their behavior. If you had a kid who ran into the street, okay, I live in New York City. If my kid tended to like run into the street and I practiced all this stuff, there was no way when I went into the street later that day, I'd be that far away from them. Not because I don't trust them, just because keeping them safe would mean staying close to them. And actually for them to feel successful in implementing the new skills we were practicing, I wouldn't want them to have the experience of, oh, there they go, right? Running, into the street again. So I'd stay close. This is one of the things I think parents don't do enough. Now Jasper comes over and I'd say this to my son, my daughter, I'd say, during your play date, I'm going to stay a little closer to you. I know we're practicing new skills, and me too. When I practice new skills, I need people to just help remind me to do them. And so I'm going to stay close to you just to make sure everyone stays safe. Not, I'm staying close to you because sometimes you hit people and that's really bad. I'm staying close to you because, like I can't trust you. No, right? I am actually keeping my kids safe too by helping them kind of practice these new things. And then one thing, and then I'll get back to you, Jessica, is the other thing in this situation is when I notice maybe Jasper doesn't have his favorite truck, he has his second favorite truck. At that point, I'm gonna say, let's practice now the backing away. Let's just give our bodies a little more space now. Can't wait till a kid is at a 10 out of 10 and then expect them or us to like implement change. We want to do that sooner. And if we've acted that out in play before, we've actually built a foundation for me and my child to draw from when the situation comes.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, I want to try this out immediately. Like, I want to go pick up my children from school and like try this. I feel like I am going to be so successful at this. I hope everybody feels like they got a little something there.
For every single person here, just be like, okay, so what's a situation that my child gets in over and over? How can I de-shame it? How can I normalize the feeling or the urge and really say to my kid, yeah, it's not even that the behavior is bad. It's I'm not going to let you do that because my number one job is to keep you safe, and that's not safe for anyone. Mm-hmm. And that shows me that we need to practice some new skill. And then to add on, I used to practice this when I was your age too. Let's go practice it now. And then to make up a situation that basically mimics what happens and is hard. And to remember, we're coming at this from a place of it's me and my child kind of against this problem behavior, not me against my child. And essentially my child is the problem.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you. I want to touch on something that feels kind of timely, and just for everybody in the audience, I would love it if you start adding, if you haven't already, throw some questions into the chat because we are going to get to you next. Will be my last one, I promise. So, I know that it's been kind of an intense few weeks. It's very heavy times as a parent. It has been heavy times as a parent, and it continues to be. And I think a lot of us have young children, and we're thinking that they're not really aware of what's going on in the world. Maybe we're not talking to them about the news because they're too young. But I'm interested to hear a little bit about how we can use play to understand what they know, what they're understanding. I know, maybe they're picking up on our own anxieties as parents, as grownups. And so, I would love it if you could talk a little bit more about how children express anxiety and concern through play, and what we should be looking for as parents. What are some of the signals of issues, and what can we do about it if we see it?
Yeah, so a couple things come to mind. Ooh, am I frozen?
I hear you, but I do see you as frozen.
1 second, let me see what's going on with my Wi-Fi. Oh boy. My Wi-Fi said, you guys can hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so let me just talk and then hope that it reconnects. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's what I would say around recognizing signs. Number one, pretend play is where we learn so much of what's on a child's mind, because kids will kind of put into pretend play things that they can't linearly express through their words, right? So that you might, I'm not saying you're necessarily gonna watch your 2.5-year-old, saying Ukraine, Russia, like with their, dolls or trucks or blocks. That might not happen, but they might just talk about separation or change or worries. Oh, baby rabbit's so worried, right? Or things like that. So when that comes up in play, go with it, right? Mm-hmm. Just again, like play a kind of part of someone joining in a child's world. So what might that sound like? Oh, so worried. Tell me more, right? We don't want to do the shutdown, which is, oh, but everything's fine, right? If your child's trying to tell you something, you want to open it up further. Oh, tell me more. Then what happens? What does Bunny want? What is Bunny not getting, right? Again, I don't expect my child to have any deep answers for me, but what's happening in play is I'm kind of letting them know we can be in tough moments together, right? I'm right there for you. The other place kids often express kind of things that are anxiety producing is in sleep and other areas of separation, right? So Sleep, first of all, is separation. Like sleep is not its sleep when their kids are protesting, when they're waking up in the middle of the night. It's not its own entity. It's really a manifestation of separation anxiety because our kids separate from us for many, many hours, often alone in the dark, right at night. And an important thing to understand about kind of attachment is kids are driven by attachment, right? In an evolutionary way, right? They need to attach to parents more than they need anything else to ensure their survival, right? So what they're always trying to figure out is how safe is it to be away from my parents? How close do I need to be to ensure my safety and survival? And kids are expert at noticing changes in their environment, right? So if you go back millions of years, it might be, oh, there was a rustle in the forest. That's not safe. I need to get to my parent. And then hopefully a parent would say, hey, it was a squirrel. It wasn't a bear. You can go play again. Well, most of us aren't in that environment anymore. But if kids hear war and anxiety and more arguments and things on the TV that aren't explained to them, then they again seek proximity, because proximity is a way to ensure safety when things aren't certain. And then saying goodnight to a kid, okay, see you later. And then a parent is out of sight. A kid's too smart. They're like, I don't think so. No. Right? So what does that mean? Well, we want to pick up on what our kids notice in their environment, and whatever you think they notice, multiply it by 100, because they notice way more. They have to. They're more perceptive than we are because their survival depends on it as helpless beings, essentially, because they're so small. And then after that, I'd say, how can I, oh, perfect, I'm back, right? I changed
Yep, you're good. You're good.
How can I explain to my kid a little bit about what's going on? It doesn't have to be the same thing for a 1.5-year-old or a 2-year-old as it is for an 18-year-old. But you might say, hey, you've noticed these words being said around you. Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. In those two countries, and again, if you're in New York or US, you might say, which are very far away. Someone very poignantly on Instagram, given our community is so global, said, what do I do? I'm in Poland. Like, it's not something I can say, right? So obviously everything has to adjust to where you are. Those two countries, I've heard it explained in many different ways, right? You could say if your kids are young, have a lot of things they disagree about, and they were trying to use their words, and now they're not really using their words anymore, right? And we are safe, and you might notice we're saying those words a lot, Russia and Ukraine. That alone is going to give your kid this feeling, oh, I really did notice something around me. I'm not making it up. I feel safer having information, right? Information doesn't scare kids as much as the lack of information scares kids. That is terrifying to kids because they have to assume the worst for their own survival. That same principle can be applied to anything. It is much better to say to a child, hey, you've probably noticed me and your dad, me and your mom, we've been arguing a lot. I want you to know two things. Yes, we've been arguing, and yes, our family is safe, right? Explaining that to a kid as opposed to a kid hearing it in their room and thinking, oh, what's going on? How bad is this? Did I cause this? Because kids have to self-blame without other explanations just to gain control. That actually is soothing for a kid, even if you don't have all the information or all the answers to their questions.
I love that. Thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience for a minute, and hopefully, if you're comfortable, I would love. There's a question here about independent play, and that's something that a lot of people have asked about. So, Brandy Ship, if you are around and available, and you can chime in right now, take yourself off mute and ask your question. I would love that.
Sorry, my screen block was on. Thank you. Yeah, I have a 4-year-old who is fantastic and loves to play, but he's an only child. So would love any guidance on how to get him to play a little bit more independently. It is very difficult when my husband and I are home for him to play by himself. He really kind of demands that one of us get down with him, which it just isn't always feasible. So would love any guidance there. Thank you.
Amazing question. Independent play is so important, and it's a skill. It's a muscle. I think maybe that's a better way. It's a muscle that needs to be developed. right? And I think that's really important to consider that framework before we think about exactly how to build it, right? So a couple of things about it. It's important to build that skill, not reactively, not when you're at kind of the end of your rope and you're thinking like, I just need you to play by yourself, right? Like any other skill, we have to build it in times of kind of calmness and clarity of expectations and actually being connected with your kid. The other thing is we have to start really, really small before that time gets even bigger. So that means starting with, I mean this, 30 seconds of independent play successfully, a minute, 2 minutes, before a child is able to play alone for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or however long. So I would explain it to your kid with really directness of communication. It's something like this. When things are calm, right? Hey, something we're going to be working on is called independent play, is called playing on your own, is called quiet time, whatever you want to call it. Here's why it matters so much. Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, in a family, when adults and kids are both awake, it is really important for both people to be able to count on some time when they're on their own. That's really important. Something I say to my kids, I love being your parent and I love playing with you. And I also really love the time to myself. Both really matter, right? Just, we don't say that enough to our kids. Just own it, right? Then I'd say, so one of the things we're going to be starting is something called, and then whatever, quiet time. Here's how it's going to work. You're going to know when it's coming. And I'm going to put out a couple play items in the playroom, in your room, wherever it is. And we're going to be starting really small, like really, really small. And your job, your job during that time is to stay in that room and play with those items or not play with those items. And you're going to be without me or daddy during that time. During that time, I'm going to be having my own quiet time, doing things I need to do. Then I'd prepare. That might feel a little tricky. After all, we know new things always feel kind of tricky before we practice them. I'm going to help you by doing just a little bit at a time. Then if you're starting it that day, it's like, here, we're doing at 1 o'clock. That means after lunchtime, right? And then I'd really lay out the specifics. You're going to have this, right? And if it feels to you like, oh, I don't want to do this, maybe we could practice now, taking a deep breath. It's okay not to like this, and I can do it a little bit longer. I'm making that up. That's not like a magic phrase, but something. Then you want to really set your kid up for success. 30 seconds. You want to start with an amount of time that you can come in and say, wow, you did it. So if that's 10 seconds, that's fine. Having some type of clock that turns a color when they're done, something that your kid has a sense of timing, and then build from there, right? I think the biggest missteps I see with families is they start way too long or they start reactively. I really need you to play by yourself right now. I need to cook or I need to do my email. And then it's like a rejection instead of a building of confidence.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely one of those. I can relate. So that's super helpful. Thank you. I know it's 12:44, so I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, awesome. I see there's a couple here about rough play, and I've heard you talk a little bit about that on your podcast. Jen, with a double N, I see you put this question in the chat. If you want to pop on and talk about your 4-year-old, I'd love for you to ask your question in person.
Hi. Oh, thank you so much. So I have a 4-year-old and he's amazing, but he's also sensory seeking. And so I find that a lot of the time that he wants to play, he's always like, okay, and then you come over here and you jump on me and you tickle me and I'm going to jump on you and we're going to run and now you're a dinosaur and you're chasing me and we're doing this. And he's kind of like that way with his little brother too. And it always kind of goes in that direction. And I have energy, but I don't always have the energy for that. So I don't always want to play that way. And I feel like I don't want to hurt his feelings being like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. But sometimes that is how it comes out. And I don't know how to redirect the play into can we do something different? Without making him feel like I don't want to play with him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes. So there's actually two things, kind of two versions of something I caught in the question that I want to start with. And it's the idea of hurting other people's feelings and making someone feel blank. I think like all of us should just like note when those words come up for us, right? Like I actually really do believe that we don't make people feel a certain way. It's nuanced. That doesn't mean I take no responsibility for the people I love around me and how they feel. I think I care about that. But the idea that we put feelings into people, I think is like a really problematic way of thinking about healthy relationships, because it really makes us think more about how someone's going to feel in reaction to how I feel versus how do I feel? Like, how do I feel? And can I put that out there in a way that feels authentic to me? Right. And I also think it's not something I want my kids to think, that like, you know, I pay more attention to how someone's going to receive something that's true for me, rather than grounding myself first in what is true for me. And then how do I deliver that in a way that just ends up feeling good? I actually think our kids need to be rejected by us through play, like a lot. Like I do that all the time. I think it's really good for them. Now there's many ways we can do that. We can be like, hey, you have horrible play ideas. I don't want to play with you. I don't think that's an effective one. That's kind of mean, right? But I think saying to a kid, you want to play this way. I can tell you really want to do that. I'm not really in the mood to do that right now. So, that's kind of tricky. What can we do? This actually is like a great kind of thing to end with, coming back to how we began with Jessica, right? Which is like, well, why is play so important? Well, play is so important because you have to negotiate a lot. You know what is important in life? I want to do X, someone wants to do Y. What are we going to do? Right? And so just naming that. But naming that comes from our giving ourselves freedom to say what's true for us, which is, I don't really want to do that right now. There's nothing wrong with wanting to play that way. It just isn't really something I'm in the mood for. I really do want to, and I have time to play with you. That's a way I'm not going to do. That's not an option. And then the phrase, I wonder, just to me, like I feel like needs to be said way more often to kids. Wondering to a kid is like an invitation to collaborate. It's very different than a directed question. So what should we do? So what do you think? It's different. Like, I wonder what we could do about that. Right? There's like something just beautiful about that phrase, right? I wonder what you can do when Jasper comes over and wants that truck, right? I see here, like, I wonder what you can do when you want to scream. And you know, screaming is not allowed at the dinner table. Oh, I wonder what someone could do in that situation. Like, there's just such a teamness about that. And there's like also this communication that there's not one right answer with the word wonder. So you're allowed to kind of brainstorm together. So I would say that it's like, and I wonder what we could do, right? And then you could come up with a million different things. Maybe it's, that's an interesting idea. I could do it for a little and stop. Maybe you say, you know what, that is definitely something I could do another day when I have like this much of wanting to play that way. Today I have like this much, I have none. Like, that's just not going to be a way that's not going to be an option today. I wonder if there's any other way, because I think you're telling me you want to have fun. I'm thinking you're telling me you want to move around your body. How could we have fun and move around our body, but that doesn't require me to roll around with you? Right? I often think with kids, we want to like bring them close to the aha moment, but you really want your kid to have it. Because going back to the power of play, when your kid learns, I wanted something someone else didn't. I was frustrated. I thought of one solution that wasn't it. And then I had an aha moment. That is like the most amazing circuit to build in a kid that translates to math and reading and interpersonal relationships and like a million things. So I think that just starts with your honesty. Right? And as much as I think it's important for kids to have parents who engage and play with them, it's also important to have a parent who is honest and gives kids the opportunity to kind of be flexible in how their wants and needs get met.
I love that. Thank you so much for asking that question, Jen. I feel so empowered, and I hope that everybody in the audience does too. I hope that everybody here gained at least one thing or many things. I do want to let you know that we will email this recording to you so you can watch it over and over and over again, and hopefully learn something new every time you watch it. I would definitely encourage you to go follow Dr. Becky on Instagram, and to sign up for her newsletter, to sign up for her new parenting group, which she will, I'm sure be sharing more about in the coming weeks and months. Dr. Becky, is there anything you want to add to sort of close this out?
I mean, just, I always think that learning something new and trying something new in our body sits right next to feeling overwhelmed or feeling ashamed and how you did thing in the past and therefore shutting down. So like learning or considering trying something new is just very, very brave. And so thank you all for being here. And I really mean what I said in the start. Like, you know, I don't do all these things with my kids, right? I try to hold myself to like one new thing here and there. So we are in this together. And as Jessica referred to, Good Inside is now so much more than what meets the eye. There's actually 12 people full time working on this brand new. It's a platform that really brings content and community together. And we will be publicly announcing so much about this game-changing platform in April. But to those of you who, if it was me, I'd be like, this is annoying. Just like, where can I find out about this now? So if you're curious, it is live to an early access group, and support at goodinside.com would be the way to find out about it now. And that's where I'm spending more and more of my time doing a million of these types of events and so many other things. So look forward to connecting with all of you. And again, thank you, Jessica, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity to keep thinking like about all the things I love thinking about. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.